happens. So I've clicked the recording button. You've been warned. Let's see if I can share. Everybody can see Rhino on my screen. Okay. Make everybody big up here. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to bring up was that if you are going to be using Lumion, you need to look up, there is a plugin that needs to go into Rhino. So if you just Google like Lumion Rhino plugin, the first link that should pop up is this download Lumion Live Sync for Rhino. So this is something you'll have to download in order to kind of connect the two together. We'll talk about Live Sync in a second, but in order to use it at all, there might be some workarounds to not have that plugin, but it's easier to have it.
Yeah, I don't have that plugin right now, and I've used Lumion before somewhat, but I guess that could be a reason why it doesn't work properly.
Yeah, so the basics are Lumion uses I don't know how to pronounce it, but collada or whatever you want to call it file, so a .dae file. This plugin, if I go back to Rhino here, will give you a new tab at the top here for Lumion, which basically allows you to start a live sync, which is basically a live connection between Rhino and your Lumion model. So anything that's changed in Rhino is automatically sent to Lumion and back and forth. It's definitely a little, I would say it's definitely, it's taxing on your computer to have it like constantly running on the live sync. So, there's a stop or pause live sync, so you can turn it on and off to kind of bring things back and forth. Another way to do it, which is a lot of, not a lot less taxing, but less taxing, is to have this export as a collada file, which allows you to export that file. I don't actually know, does Rhino, it sounds like, Michael, that you had does Rhino have the ability to just, yeah, so Rhino can export the DAE file by itself.
I usually do it as a motion builder.
Okay.
When I export it, and then I import it into Lumion that way.
Okay. I mean, if it works, so be it. But I would recommend using either this collada file DAE extension or downloading the plugin, which makes it a lot easier personally. So once you download, let me just open a a dumb thing I had modeled quickly for presentation purposes. So when you have a model, you can even not have Lumion open and click. I'm not going to do it right now because I do have Lumion open. Go away. And if I click the start live sync and I don't have Lumion open, it will automatically open Lumion and kind of export everything into there. You can export as this collada file. Just because you don't use the live sync doesn't mean that it's not updatable. You can always update the file. So if you export that file, you can bring it, you bring it into Lumion, and then you come back in a Rhino and you change something, you can re-import it back in and kind of overwrite the file that you bring into Lumion. So either one works, whatever is kind of best for your computer at the time. I actually personally, I use Lumion with Revit a lot. I don't prefer the live sync, at least with the Revit version. Also in an office setting, you have a tendency where people don't save the models in appropriate locations. So I prefer to have a record by exporting the DAE file and saving that in like kind of a folder and an archive. So that way we have a record of the file as it is changed. So in a professional setting, I prefer that. It may work for you all too. So that way you have records of all the things that you bring in. So I'll let you choose the way you want. Live sync is the easiest, but if you use a live sync file and you don't import the collada, it can be hard to update it later not hard, but it will, it automatically updates. So you have, if you didn't want it to update, that could be a problem. So as you can see here, I have opened up Lumion. We're going to do kind of like I said, high level stuff today, just so we can get, you can see my computer is critically slow, or I have a critical warning. Hopefully it'll let me operate, but you can, when you open it up, you can kind of create new, load projects that you've already worked on. They have tutorials. There's a lot of videos online, all that kind of stuff. There's example projects you can open and play with. But for now, if you were starting new, if you click create new, you can kind of pick your environment. And so you can, based on our, what do we do? The hotel in the desert. There's a desert environment you could have used, and some of you may have used, and a bunch of stuff you can kind of start with as an example. I think I save, actually, why don't we see what happens if I start fresh? So let me create new. Let's go, where do we want to go? Let's go to the mountain range, see what happens. So this basically just creates kind of a standard background that you can manipulate after after you created it. But so sometimes starting with a flat plane is sometimes the best, so you can manipulate that. This may have been a mistake. Let's see what happens. There we go. So Lumion kind of has, does anybody play The Sims? Yeah, my wife loves The Sims. It has a Sims feel to it before you kind of get to the rendering stages of things. So it's kind of always presented in a, yeah, it's going to be choppy, but we'll see what happens. It's kind of presented in a sim type format, right? So the graphics kind of look that way. The basic moving commands, the right click is kind of the pan, or like the not pan, kind of looking, rotate, I guess. I don't know. I can't remember all the different things. Is the scroll is kind of the walking forward and backward. If you hold shift, it'll go faster. So it'll move quicker. When you hold shift, it'll kind of move at a further distance at a time. And I think middle click, so middle click is the pan, kind of left and right. So you can pan left. I know this is moving really slowly, but if you can see it, it's panning left and right. Down here, kind of your main tools. It does have, down here, your main tools. Up top are your layers. It does have layers similar to like Photoshop, Illustrator, those kind of programs, or even Rhino and things like that, where you can put different models on different layers, turn them on and off. You can put entourage on different layers, turn them on and off. That can be helpful when organizing. Down here, you kind of have these four main icons. So you kind of have the content library, which allows you to import models, which is what you'll do with your models from Rhino. And then it kind of has all the different entourage that you can add, right? So the benefit, the thing I like about professionally with Lumion is it has, trees in there, it has people in there, cars, even other buildings. Some of the people can walk or do different things. They're a little animated. The people are very Sims-like, so I don't like when they're too close to the image. It can be distracting. So I like them more when they're far away. But they also do have silhouettes and things like that, and animals. They also have lights, some sounds, different kinds of effects that you can put in, and those types of things. So if I was to place a person, see if I can just place a person quick, and we'll get to the modeling. We'll get to models in here in a second. I just feel like once I bring it in, it's going to slow things down. When I click on the person and I hit place, it should give me the library, right? So it pops up the library of different people, animals, fish, birds, whatnot. So if you wanted to pop in a farm animal, you can go to the farm animal category. You can pick this lovely cow that is idle, which is interesting. And it allows you to kind of place, it automatically does sense a surface. So when you bring models in, it will try to put it on like a floor. So if you're like hovering over the roof, it'll put it on the roof. If you have a floor, it'll kind of attach it to the floor. It tries to place them in, you know, on a surface, right? If I click and I drop the cow in there, I now have a cow, and I'm now placing my second cow. You know, it'll keep placing them until you're done placing them. They do have kind of a mass placement tool, which allows you to place. This is good for like big images and entourage. I don't know if this is going to work the way I want it to. It's good for, or cluster placement. That might be better for a herd of cattle. There we go. So it'll basically give you, I'm going to place a bunch of cows and click, pop, there's a whole bunch of cows. It's good for trees and things like that. It can kind of like, you can pick multiple different types of trees or different types of cars, draw a line, it'll place them along that line, things like that, which is very handy when you're kind of putting in entourage. It cuts down on some of the Photoshop time in the end of the project, which you still always need, but you know, helps. So once you've placed things, you kind of have your manipulation items where you can select them. Everything kind of in Lumion, including your models, has these little icons which kind of denote what kind of thing it is. So this is kind of like an entourage. It's in this person category. When you bring your model in, it'll have an icon with this, you know, house imported model category, which allows you to kind of, you can't select things that are not in that same category when you're not selected on top of it. So if I was to place a tree here, come on. Oh, see, so that I did I missed. So I was on the arrow, which basically means I want to move something. So when I have selected on the tree, it was saying, well, there's nothing to move, right? So if I had to click on the place icon, and then I can pick a tree. I'll pick the acacia tree. I'll drop the acacia tree. Oh, I'm in the cluster. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to tax my computer a little bit. I'm going to put single placement. Nope. Single placement. One tree with the cows. They like to hang out with the tree. But so the tree's in. If I'm selected on the tree and I click the select button, you'll see that I'll only see the icon for the tree. I can't select the cows in when I have the tree on because I'm moving trees, or you know, different kinds of, you know, I guess it's nature. Is that what they call it? Yeah, moving nature. So you know, you can move things. If they on the arrow, you can move them just kind of on the plane. You can rotate them. You can scale them. But if I want to go back to the cows, let's say, oh, I want one of these cows to be, you know, a massive cow. I have to click back on the person, people, and animals. I can click on the scale. And then if I hover over the cow, I should be able to scale the cow up to make him a big guy, or big girl, I guess. So basic stuff there, nothing crazy. There's a whole bunch of entourage, indoor furniture, outdoor utility type stuff, cars, all that jazz. Bigger point here is that when you want to insert a model, you either need to import from one of your exported, if you export the collada file, or you need to turn on the live sync to bring it in. So I'm going to export for now. I think that might be the better option for my computer at this juncture. So let me just export this model, export as a collada file. It'll give me this guy. Let me copy that. Hopefully I can find it. So I'm just gonna save this. It's going to export. It's a pretty easy file to export, so there shouldn't be much time, you know, a lot of exporting time. So if I want to import a new model, I just click on my, actually that's not what I don't think I wanted to do that. I think I want to, import. Place. Interesting, they actually changed this button. Okay, so that's not correct. That's actually a project we were working on recently. I was working recently. Let me click this import button. Where's the window going? It's really frustrating when it's slow. I can't move quickly. Come on. Import new model. Let me go to this file. So this is where I saved my file. I click on the building that I had, and you'll see that all the models that you do import, this model name already exists. Let me just name it, rename it. I'm going to hit OK. It's going to pop in. Hopefully. Uh-oh, might be crashing. There we go. So you'll see that all the models I have imported recently are kind of in this import, the house category. So this is the one I just clicked on. So now I should be able to place this among the cattle. I'm going to place it here, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that it is below ground, or there it is behind me. I think that's it. I believe in my model, it's actually below a plane. So I need to move it, right? So the thing I don't like about Lumion is in order to kind of adjust its location, I need to locate that icon because I need to be able to select it. I don't see it. Where is it? Here's the... Hopefully I can find a way to make this faster. Apologize for how slow it's running. Where is the icon at? Where art thou? Let me try and... Oh, there it is right there. Why was it not showing before? All right, so see that icon there? That's the icon that I needed to grab. So if I click the height command, and now I'm going to try to move it up into the proper, so we can see it. Where are you? There it is. Starting to get there. So as it comes up into existence, we have a project. I promise you, it runs a lot faster when I don't. Maybe if I turn off your videos. Can I turn off video on here? That will help. It's not my video. Choose virtual backgrounds. Okay, looks like you all turned your videos off. All right, hopefully that helps for now. Maybe I'll make you like this. I don't think it helped at all, but appreciate the effort. So the important thing, a quick important thing about, this is why I kind of kept mentioning the rendering or the layers in your models. If you're going to use any type of, if you're going to use Lumion or some other program, is because the materials that you assign inside of Rhino are kind of brought into Lumion or other programs. I think Enscape does it, and Twinmotion does it. And you need to basically assign materials in in Rhino so like everything that's the same material has the same material on it in Rhino. So that way, when you bring it into here, it knows which material is which. If all of these things were on the same layer and had the same material, when I go to apply materials, it'll just apply that same material to everything. So it's crucial that you kind of start to set those layers and those materials in Rhino, right? So the material button here, which is the next one on the list on the icons, allows you to kind of now modify materials. So when I select it, and you need to kind of select on the thing that you want to change, right? So you can see that I have an X in it, and it will name the material that it's bringing in from Rhino, right? So if I hover over, come on, maybe because I picked a field with a bunch of grass in it, that might. So if I hover over the exterior material, see the whole shell of this building highlights. If I hover over the glass material, all of the glass highlights. But you can see the glass that I have down here is not highlighting because I believe I have a different material on that glass than I do on this glass. So if I was to select one of these things, so let me hover over this and try to select the material that I want to change. We're not going to get too deep into material creation right now, just kind of how to start to set materials. Lumion does have a bunch of materials built in, but it's usually better when you make your own materials. So you can see here, this is kind of like the general material creation palette. There's different kinds of materials you can make. There's like just plain color. There's different glass materials. Um, it's just invisible. I think this is kind of landscape, light mapping. I think this is like water type. It's a waterfall. This is water, and there's waterfall, I guess. When you're creating materials, I always start from this one in the bottom corner, which is a standard material, which kind of gives you all of the options. And you can see it's already kind of started to change it. It made it really glossy and reflective. So if you were to load materials, this is where you kind of start to create them and modify them, where you have like your normal type of your normal toggles. We won't get too deep right now, but the reflectivity, colorization, glossiness, the relief, which is kind of the bump map. This is like the orientation of the material. So you can rotate it, transparency. This is kind of other various settings. If it's emissive, if it's a light, the kind of saturation, different kinds of maps that you can add to it, like reflectivity maps, as cutout maps or transparency maps. And then I think reflective maps or emissiveness maps. There's also weathering, which is a tool in here where you can kind of make something weather. And then I believe this is a foliage type for, when you're doing trees and whatnot. So I'm just going to pick from the standard library for right now, just so you can see. If I go into back to the library here, it does have standard materials already loaded in. So it has a bunch of indoor materials loaded and different types. There's plastics, cloth, leathers, metals, plaster. I think this is like curtain or drapery, wood. So, if I pick a wood material, I can then go in here and I can start to see all the different woods that you can pick. So if we start to get real weird with it and we pick, if you double click on a material, it should start to apply that material. And I can start to manipulate this material in here. I can turn down its reflectivity. I can still modify the standard materials in Lumion. I could even, oh crap, I always forget to plug my computer in. Where's my plug? 1 second, everybody. back. So, so yeah, so you can start to apply that. If I want to move to another material, let's say I was good with that. I can just click on the next material and start to modify that. So this is already kind of recognizing this as a glass material, but let's say I don't want that bluish green tint on there. I can pick, an interior glass, or I can go with a kind of a rough glass, like a fog type, translucent glass or frosted type thing here. So let's pick a glass for now. If you were done modifying the materials, obviously this is a lot deeper, and we'll get deeper into this. And also you'll get deeper into this as the semester goes on. But I just kind of wanted to get, so everyone should probably start to, pick this up and play with it a little bit, as we learn more about it. So that's kind of the super basics of the material palette. The two other tabs are landscape. So if I didn't like this landscape and I wanted to start manipulating it in some way, I can start to, add different, I want there to be, let's say I wanted this to, float off the edge of a hill or something. I could raise the ground around my project. So you can kind of do some of your landscaping or topography inside of Lumion. So I just pick the raise command, and I can now start to kind of pull this up a little and make this terrain around the project a little more, interesting, let's say. So there's all kinds of things you could do in here. They actually have a thing that's nice, especially for kind of city environment. There's also like some water, ocean and water tools in here, and then real grass, which I think is kind of what this stuff is right now. So there's like a flat grass and then a real grass. So this is an actual 3D grass. They actually have an OpenStreetMap. They're connected to OpenStreetMap, so you can kind of pick a location in the world and kind of pick a space around it, and it will model that area. If I clicked on here, missing something up here. Cannot paint outside a landscape. So if I click here and I turned it on, I can, this might be a bad idea, but I can pick an area in the world, and I can kind of say, I want this radius or this block area in Philadelphia or New York City or something like that. And it'll kind of start to interpret what those buildings are. And it'll just be block buildings. But you can start to create kind of site models, let's call it, by choosing pick GPS coordinates. So let's see if I can pick Paris. See what we can do here. See how interesting we can get. So you kind of have to pick an area. So like it's basically taking the area that's in this image here. So let me zoom into a slightly, it's a little too far. See what happens. See what happens when we click this. There's a chance that it might crash, but so it'll basically download that data, and now I'm inside of a building. So let me float out into existence here. So you can see that it's basically downloaded that part of the city. I now have cows in the middle of whatever road that is in Paris. It even knows where the river is and things like that. So it's pretty cool. It can be pretty powerful tool. Obviously, this is Paris in the middle of the mountains, I suppose. But it's helpful to kind of place your model in, potentially place your model in a cityscape or something like that. So I'm just going to turn this off, but that was just an example. Last and not least, there's the weather and the sun. You can kind of change the time of day. You can move the sun around. You can even add wind speed and stuff that affects how cloudy the sky is and how fast they move. That's some of that stuff's kind of related to video type things. I believe you can turn on real skies, which gives you a little bit more realistic, I think, of a sky. But those are your basic tools up there. So that's kind of just how to manipulate, big move manipulations. If you want, when you are ready to start kind of rendering, there's still other tools. There's a lot of other tools that you can start to use. I'm just trying to get back to a normal spot here. Whenever you're starting to render, you have to use kind of the tools down here, right? So there's kind of this still image. There are video, like movie type tools, so you can start to create movies, and then like 360 spherical views that you can start to do. The basic rendering would just be this photo. When you go in here, you can. One thing I do like about this is that when you pick a spot, so I'm basically setting up this view wherever I want it to be. So let's say I wanted this to be my view here. I get it all set up. I click kind of this save store camera button. It makes camera sound, and then that view is stored. And then if I wanted to set up my next view, let's say I came in here, I wanted this to be my next view, staring out at the cows through my weird little building. I can start to set up multiple camera views. And the cool thing about this is, and one other thing I like about Lumion is there's a lot of effects that you can add to each image. So let's say in this image, you wanted this image to be a nighttime image, let's say. If you go into these add effects tools, there's dozens or hundreds of effects you can add. And one of them is the sun, for example. So in this one, I can say, I want this one to be a nighttime image. So I can put the sun all the way down. Super dark. Or I want it to be dusky type. And that doesn't affect these other images, right? So in this image, it's still daytime, and you can adjust the different times of day in each one separately, and modify as you see fit. And none of them affect the actual build space, which is this here. This would take you back into the area where you can start placing things again and building. So we'll get deeper into a lot of those things probably in the next class and the class after, or at least try to, and hopefully I'll find a way to make this a little not so slow. But that's kind of like the super basic level of things. Learning to move around can be a little difficult. It's a little different than other programs. One thing I do want to show you. So let's say that you change something in your model, right? So let me go back to Rhino real fast. Just have it open. Let's say in Rhino, I got rid of all this glass and it was just now open. And let's say that I don't want mullions anymore. And I just turn off my mullions. And this is my new shape, right? So let's save as, I'll save this as something different. Rendered building V2. And I will export this again, export my Collada file again. And I will save it in the same general spot. So I'll just save this, but I'll save it as a different name, right? So I can save as V2. So I'll save that, export there. And I come back out into my Lumion space, and I go back to my content library where I loaded the original file. I click on my imported files. And if I select my model, I now have my model selected. I can, right here, I can re-import. but I have renamed it. So I have an old model which had, the original stuff, and I have a new model that has different things. So you can see a little tooltip there. You can just click that to re-import the model, the same name. So if you just overwrote the file, you can just re-import that file and it'll update. But if I want to update from a different location or a different name, I have to hold down the Alt key. So if I hold down Alt, it'll go to here. I'll click my re-import button and it brings me back to here. I can choose my new file and I can open. And the benefit of this is it should keep all the same materials on the that I've already put onto this file, even though it's technically a brand new file. And I've deleted this glass. I only turned off the mullions. So as you can see, is that whatever is visible in the view when you export that DAE file is what is exported, right? So the mullions technically still exist in the model. I just have them turned off. So if you for some reason you're exporting and it's not working or things aren't showing up, that might be a reason why, because they are just turned off or not visible in the view that you're exporting. If I wanted to export just a section cut of this, I could use a clipping mask in Rhino and kind of clip part of the building and export that, and I would only have a section cut of the building in this view. So that's kind of important for bringing models back and forth. All right, so 7:24. That was almost an hour. Anybody have any questions or concerns right out the gate, or have you used Lumion? There are things that you want to learn more that you want to make sure I cover over the next class or two. We'll probably go into material creation a little deeper, and maybe some of the rendering effects a little deeper. And but there is something to be said about playing with the program and starting to kind of use it to render things. So any thoughts right out the gate before we transition to other things? I'm gonna stop sharing for a second.